All right, good morning. It is a Tuesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio, and a little bit awkward. I would say, hey, we're only on video today, but you would know that because if you're trying to listen to us, you can't hear us. It's a complicated thing, but we'll get the audio up a little bit later today. I promise that will happen. All right, a lot to do on the program today. Coming up in a few minutes, looking forward to catching up with Robinson Chirinos, who, you know, you might only think of as like a brief backup catcher in Baltimore, and I would understand that. But I had a really fascinating moment when we were doing the Mo Gabba Sports Person of the Year conversation with Brandon Hyde last year. And I just point blank asked him, hey, is there any one person or any one player that you think was most important in changing the culture here in Baltimore? And without blinking, Brandon Hyde said, absolutely. 100%. Robinson Chirinos. And I said, how about that? How about that? So, looking forward to catching up with Robbie a little bit later on this morning. Also coming up during the course of the program, it's Tuesday, so we'll chat with our buddy Patrick Stevens, get his thoughts on the roster that Maryland basketball has put together with a couple more transfers from last week. Also, we will discuss big wins for both Johns Hopkins and Loyola Lacrosse over the weekend, and much more, all coming up on the program today. Oh, and the CountySports.Zone Radio, as we do every Tuesday. Today's show is brought to you by Atman's Deli, now open in Harbor Point. It's everything you loved about the original Atman's, but now they also have a full bar at the brand new Atman's Deli in Harbor Point. The corned beef piled high, all the delicious deli sandwiches, the soups, the desserts, hand-rolled bagels, and that great breakfast menu every morning. AtmansDeli.com is the website. Atman's Deli in Harbor Point. Find out their daily specials again at AtmansDeli.com. All right, so we need the marker.
Oh, yeah, the nice orange marker.
Yeah, need that.
Why is it? It's on the floor in the corner of the room.
Well, go get it. Go get that. As we got a new man of the match, but it's not new. For the second time in as many starts, shutout effort for 5 2/3 innings. Guess we just pencil him in for that all season long. Big Al, you can call me Al. Albert Suarez, once again, man of the match. I'm still not sure what to make of it. I heard Rita making the comparison, like, hey, do you have to wait till after, like, 3 starts to start reacting to it? Like, when's the point at which you give baseball time to adjust and try to see what it is they can see on film? I don't know.
I mean, it was like
I don't know,
like what Spencer Watkins did a couple summers ago. I mean,
I don't think Spencer Watkins' stuff was this good, though. I think that's the part that I can't figure out about this is what to make of how good the stuff has been. The dip. I mean, the drop on the changeup, phenomenal. I don't know. I don't have the answers. Believe it or not, I'm not capable of it. But my God, Albert Suarez just delivering for the Baltimore Orioles. And so once again, he is man of the match. And you ride it as far as you can ride it at this point. And I mean, that's kind of really all you can say at the moment. Just ride it. Don't overthink it. Don't worry about it at the moment. There may come a point where Albert Suarez turns back into a pumpkin, but when that comes, you will react to it then. In the meantime, this is unbelievable. I mean, it's really unbelievable. There's not a whole lot else to say about the baseball game yesterday. Some more timely hits. Loved Jorge Mateo stealing third base, creating a run all on his own early on in that game. Again, if Jorge Mateo is going to be in the lineup against lefties, that's the advantage that you have. Without getting a base hit, he got a triple. That's Jorge Mateo. That's why his roster spot will not be one that I will quarrel with at any point. I mean, unless he completely stops hitting lefties and
can't field a ground ball.
Yeah, I mean, unless it gets to a point where, I mean, even then, as long as he's still fast, I don't know, man. I really do think that you can have a roster spot for someone with speed. And Jorge Mateo swiping 2 bags last night reminds you of how lethal that could be. Say you're in a spot where you're down 1 in a playoff game in the 9th inning and somebody leads off with a walk. You know, it's the old Dave Roberts role. I'm never going to have significant beef with a roster spot for Jorge Mateo in Baltimore. It's just never going to happen. So, a lot of good. Gunnar Henderson with a triple, and he's flying around the bases. Lot to like. Add on to that the excitement of Heston Kjerstad now will be added to this roster starting today, and presumably will be in the lineup tonight. I don't imagine they call him up to not be in the lineup on night 1. Now, what that looks like moving forward, I don't know.
It's a lefty tonight. So.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Who's it tonight?
Griffin Canning.
Oh, yeah, it's Canning.
Strong name.
Right. Okay, I don't know what they're going to do tonight then. I don't have that answer. I guess you couldn't really call somebody else up when they called it. So Banuelos gets to be the guy every time they go through something like this because he's the guy that's on the taxi squad. So he's the guy that's there. So you're either going to play with 25 men or you're going to put Dan Banuelos on the roster, and should some ungodly emergency occur, you can have a 26-man on your roster for the night. I guess it wouldn't really make sense to call someone else up for a day to wait on Heston Kjerstad. And to be clear, even if you don't start him tonight, then there's the possibility they bring in a right-handed reliever, and then you pull him off the bench. I don't know what this looks like with Heston Kjerstad right now, because it's a macro and micro situation. In the micro, you already, man, this really isn't easy. In the micro, I don't know. I really don't know how you're getting Heston Kjerstad.
I don't know why I thought Canning was a lefty. He's a righty.
Okay,
so yeah,
I didn't think that. All right, he'll start tonight.
I don't know why I thought he was a lefty.
I don't know either. I mean, there was lefty last night, obviously, in Detmers. So, yeah, he'll start tonight. But I'm trying to think of what this looks like. What is their lineup with Heston Kjerstad in it against righties?
I mean,
so
like now you're gonna see Cowser, Holiday are both lefties. Mullins is a lefty. I mean, yeah, like it's gonna be
right. Like this is the. I don't really have this answer. I apologize.
O'Hearn's gonna be in the lineup, right? Like,
yeah, O'Hearn's gonna be in the lineup. All right, Gunner's in the lineup, obviously.
Yeah, all right.
Let me start writing this
Adley.
down. Gunner, Adley, O'Hearn, Cowser.
Dude, we're not going in order. We're just
Mullins. No, I'm just writing down names. Mullins, Santander. Unless, what if Santander's split's been against lefties this season? Unless there's something I don't know.
I mean, I know he's hitting homers from. I know he's
Holiday. That's what happens when you have nothing but lefties on your team. Just put it together, a team full of lefties. So you have those 7. I guess you're going to add. So now I got to figure out where everybody's playing. So Gunner's short. Adley's behind the plate. O'Hearn, DH. Cowser, left field. Mullins, center field. Santander. I guess there's room.
He's hitting left-handed pitching slightly better. He has an 830 OPS against left-handed pitching.
So I guess the answer is Kjerstad can either play right field and Santander can DH, or Kjerstad can DH and Santander can play right field, and O'Hearn would play first base in either of those scenarios. That's I think, the path to this. And you just have Mount Count. Although, is there anybody else in the lineup that's a righty that's hitting righties particularly well this season that you don't want to sit against a righty?
McCann's not. Mateo's not. Like, yeah.
No, I mean like Mountcastle. That's what I'm trying to say.
The only one.
So that becomes complicated, right? Because the spot that's available is, I guess, third base. But how's Westberg hitting against righties this season? The moment you really don't want Westberg sitting against anyone, right? Like, the moment.
Westberg.
Apologies for not knowing these things coming in or not having this sort of more mapped out. This is what happens on this show. I imagine
he's hitting everyone quite well. He is hitting lefties 867 OPS. His OPS is over 1,000.
Right, but what about
righties.
right?
Over 1,000.
Over 1,000 against righties. Yeah. So Westberg's in the lineup. Let's go ahead and take care of that. And what are Mountcastle's numbers?
Mountcastle's numbers would be obviously pretty good against lefties.
Yes.
Against everybody else.
Hang on. Versus righties, he's hitting 327.
It's pretty good. Are these those good problems? And
of course they're good problems. Obviously they're good problems. But you still need to play these guys somewhere. And that's the problem, is that you can put together an entire lineup of guys that you want to have in the lineup against a righty. I don't have room. You got an entire lineup there without having room to put Kjerstad in. So someone's got to go for Kjerstad. Is there someone who's surprisingly not performing against righties this season? I mean, this is the – look, again, I get it. This is not a problem. It's not. This is a wonderful thing to be dealing with. But this is going to be the issue that the Orioles are going to deal with right now, which is how do you get all of these guys into the lineup? Because, no, I don't want to sit Westberg, and I don't want to sit Mountcastle. Westberg wouldn't even make sense. You need somebody to play third base. But I don't want to sit Mountcastle necessarily because why would I want to? He's hitting 327 against righties this season. But you don't bring Kjerstad up to not play. That's why I think a lot of people were wondering if the move was going to be disappointing to Orioles fans. Like, are they going to just call up Ryan McKenna again because they're not going to be bothered by the idea of McKenna not playing? The reality was that Austin Hayes, at the point at which he got hurt, Austin Hayes was barely playing. Austin Hayes, was, of course, in the lineup against lefties.
I think he had 10 at-bats last week.
But it's not an even trade. You're not calling up a right-handed hitter that can hit against lefties. You're calling up another left-handed bat, which is what you've done. You built a team full of lefty bats. All good. Not angry about it, but it makes this awkward. Again, the good problem is you have so many, it's hard to choose. Can any of the rest of them play second base? Like, any of the rest of them.
Mountcastle's pretty athletic. He's not a lefty, though, yeah. So.
I mean, but he won him in the lineup against righties because he's hitting against righties this season. I don't have the answers. I'm excited about it, but I acknowledge I still think that there's going to be times we're going to be pissed off because somebody's not going to be. You can't put everyone in the lineup right now. You just can't do it. You don't have enough spots in your lineup for everyone that is either A, hitting, or B, you feel like you need to have in the lineup, which goes back to my theory about why it is that at some point Jackson Holliday is going to have to start hitting, or he's going to have to go. It's difficult enough to try to get all of these other guys into the lineup, and I get it. There's no obvious choice for who would play third base. I don't know who of this group you would try to have play third base if you move Westberg back to second in this scenario. So maybe that alone protects him, is that there's just not another good option. Although I would still be inclined to give Norby or, at some point even Kobe Mayo a shot. Wonderful problem to have. I can only say it so many times. It's wonderful to be dealing with this. My God, it's so much better than so many of the conversations we've had over the years. But there is going to be an issue.
Where are we going to put Pat Valaika in the lineup?
Right, Pat Valaika. The number of guys that you probably remember that I will have I do remember one thing about Pat Valaika. I remember that thing during the pandemic.
I don't remember that at all.
he got like the first game. He got the
That was
first
his-
game-winning hit, like a walk-off hit in the pandemic, and nobody knew what to do because you weren't supposed to
Oh, gosh.
dog
Okay,
pile,
yeah,
and it
yeah,
was
no,
when
I
they
remember.
did this thing,
Yeah.
like raise the roof instead.
'Cause we can't hug.
Correct. Like that was the celebration at that point. Yeah, it's a wonderful issue to be dealing with, but it is still something they're going to have to figure out, and you do wonder what that means. And it's the macro micro, right? Like what if nobody else gets hurt in the time where Austin Hayes is on the injured list? The first thing you do is a prolonged rehab for Austin Hayes, right? You drag that out as long as you possibly can because he was struggling. And I know I've been reminded that Austin Hayes still has an option. It's rough. I mean, not even a month of struggles mean that an all-star from a year ago is going to be optioned. That seems bold. I guess that's the reality that you have, is that when you have so many options, you could do that type of thing. Damn, man. Could you imagine? Could you imagine? Hey, dog, sorry you had 2 rough weeks. This is the way it's going to be.
You hurt your calf. I mean,
It's just, this is the world we're living in these days. And again, you deal with that problem when you have to deal with that problem, and unfortunately this is baseball, and again, you knock on every piece of wood, but other guys do get hurt, and something else could change between now and then, but yikes.
and maybe that rehab assignment like really does help him, and he comes back like Mountcastle did a year ago, and
Yeah,
you know,
maybe.
just
Right,
starts
maybe.
seeing the baseball again.
And then he's Austin Hayes, and then what do you do with that?
Yeah.
Again, I get it.
It's,
All good problems to have. But it all goes back to why I think everyone's got to be a little bit more under the microscope. And I understand it's different because we're talking about a lot of corner outfielders, corner infielders, and not a lot of middle infielders. So, and even those corner infielders, very few of them, I don't know anyone else on this list that you trust to play third base. So even if you say, well, Jordan Westburg could be the answer, but I still think that it puts all of this, you put Jackson Holliday, unfortunately, under a microscope. You have too many options right now for it just to keep continuing this way for forever. I every time I say this, I'm not saying today. I'm saying that it's got to change. It needed a change for Anthony Santander a week ago, and it did. Now, that's different. That's a veteran who has proved it time and time and time and time and time and time again. But it changed. And that matters. It's got to change for Jackson Holliday, period, to me. Like, there's just no, well, you got to think about what's best for Jackson. No, I got to think about what's best for the Orioles. That's what I got to think about. That's where I am. And I'm, unlike some of you, I just don't think that sending someone back down when they're 20 years old is the end of the world. And as, Grayson Rodriguez showed a year ago, sometimes it's the best thing for someone. Necessary. There is a blueprint for this, that it doesn't just kill you confidence-wise. Anybody feeling down about Grayson Rodriguez today? Anybody worried about tonight's game because Grayson Rodriguez is on the mound, despite the fact that he got sent down a year ago when he came up and struggled? Anybody at all? Anybody said, man, I just don't know if we're going to have a chance this tonight. Grayson Rodriguez is on the mound, and he got sent down last year. It's a complicated conversation. Still not saying today. But as more and more options come into play, if one of them continues to not be helping you at the major league level, I don't think it matters that they're a number one prospect or someone that you believe could be a rock star in the future. I don't think you have a choice. But deal with that when you deal with that. In the meantime, Heston Kjerstad. All right, Robinson Chirino scheduled to join us in just a second. It is a Tuesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. Don't forget, Stan the Fan Charles, Ross Grimsley, Luke Jackson, every Monday talking baseball with you. And if you missed it yesterday, you can find it, facebook.com/PressBoxSports, as well as youtube.com/PressBoxOnline or PressBoxOnline.com/video. We'll grab a break, and then we'll talk to Robbie Chirinos. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
Craving that classic New York deli experience? Look no further than the new Atman's Deli in Baltimore's Harbor Point. Corned beef piled high, hand-rolled bagels, and something different. A bar! Atman's has food and drink specials every day. Now open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Dine in, grab takeout, or hang out at the bar for the next O's game. Atman's Deli, an authentic taste of Baltimore tradition since 1915. Find us at Harbor Point or visit atmansdeli.com.
What company makes your home more energy efficient, purifies your air, kills all viruses, and qualifies you for $6,000 in rebates? A.J. Michaels Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis at ajmichaels.com.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Discover one of Baltimore's hidden gems at Guilford Hall Brewery. Enjoy dinner in our spacious brew pub, sip a signature cocktail in our outdoor dog-friendly beer garden, or take a tour of our brewery. Discover your new favorite local craft beer. From crisp lagers to hoppy ales, there's something for everyone to enjoy. Pair your brew with delicious appetizers and entrees. There are options for the whole family, but you have to try our fan-favorite giant pretzel. Guilford Hall Brewery, where every sip is a celebration. Visit us online at guilfordhall.com.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson profiles Grayson Rodriguez, talking to people who have been part of his path as the Orioles hope he'll become their next homegrown ace. Also inside, we remember legendary Maryland basketball coach Lefty Drizel with stories from legends like Roy Williams and Bobby Cremins about what it was like to go up against the old left-hander. Press Box is available at over 500 locations around Baltimore, including 60 Royal Farm stores. You can also find the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
The Ed Block Courage Award Foundation has been working in partnership with the NFL for 46 years to support abused, neglected, and at-risk youth across the country, partnering each team with a children's facility or program that supports the well-being of those in need. Annually, one player from each team is selected by their peers to receive the Courage Award for their inspiration on and off the field. Learn more about how the Ed Block Courage Award Foundation makes a difference, and be sure to check out their latest podcast and web series episodes at edblock.org.
Contrary to what some people believe, I actually like this guy when he sleeps. Glenn Clark, talking sports.
All right, back in here on GCR. By the way, the basketball last night was unbelievable. I was trying to pay attention to basketball on the side. No, actually, I got to go the other way. So thank you to the Masson app, because I still can't watch the Orioles on my television. Won't let me sign in. That's super swell. Bang-up job. So I got to put the Orioles game on my laptop, and then I had the basketball up on the TV behind it. And obviously, I think you guys saw the end of the Sixers-Knicks game. It was crazy. Knicks are down by, 5 points in the final minute. Get a three-pointer, or steal another three-pointer. Joel Embiid's furious about the officiating. Sixers yak it away, and they're down 0-2 in that series. And then the Lakers build up a 23-point lead. Like, legitimately build up this massive lead against the Nuggets. Anthony Davis looks like he's demolishing Jokic, and Jokic is frustrated, and LeBron James is playing like a vintage LeBron James. Massive block in the first half. Man, it's unbelievable. This guy's turning back time. Who could possibly think? Then the Nuggets start to work their way back, and you're like, uh-oh. But then here's LeBron again, knocking down back-to-back threes in the fourth quarter, keeping the Nuggets at arm's length. Tie game late. LeBron James gets a wide open look. Butt naked at the top of the key. Takes the shot early in the shot clock. But I don't blame him. He's literally standing by himself. Misses it. Jamal Murray, who had been ice cold all night, goes down, hits the fall-away jumper at the buzzer as the Nuggets go up 2-0 in that series. It was fun basketball. I said, and I mean this, even when the Nuggets were down by 23 in the second half, there was a part of me that was like, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like the Nuggets are that inevitable. Like, it genuinely feels to me in these playoffs like everybody else is playing for if for some reason Jamal Murray gets hurt, if for some reason the Nuggets, something awful happens to Nikola Jokic. If one of those two guys gets hurt, then maybe somebody else could win the championship. And perhaps that's disrespectful to other teams. And look, Minnesota obviously looked great in their first game. The Thunder have been great all season long, and the Celtics were historically good this season. So I'm not trying to be utterly and completely dismissive of everyone else, but it just feels like everyone else is playing for what if somehow something happens to the Nuggets and then maybe we could win the title, because the Nuggets just feel inevitable to me. And I get it. It required some conspiracy from the Lakers last night, and they started throwing the ball around in the second half. But it's also part of the story of, like, asking LeBron James for a vintage LeBron James performance for 48 minutes is just not plausible. It's still amazing what he's done this season, what he's done the last couple of years, and what he did last night. It's still remarkable given his age. But the problem is their path to winning has to involve him being that good frequently. And that's just not realistic. And I think we saw that as the playoffs went on last year. That's before they had to travel. Like, they had to push LeBron James last night, sort of figuring, hey, if we can stack a win, get it to 1-1, then we'll deal with it in Game 3. Now they got to go travel. It's just reality. And I know that other athletes have stretched what we believe that someone can do. And LeBron James is continuing to stretch what we believe that someone can do at a certain age. But to carry a team in playoff games, to be solely responsible in those moments, for the better part of a game, I don't see there being a path. So I've never bought into the idea that the Lakers could be competitive with the Nuggets. You can joke about how maybe the Thunder struggling the way that they did in Game 1 was proof that everybody's theories that maybe the Lakers should have tried to throw the first play-in game. Maybe they were onto something. I'm not with you. I got friends that are Lakers fans who are like, yeah, we get it, and like maybe if it had worked out that way, that would have been a good thing, but you can't throw it. And that's the way it is. Like, it's the absurdity of suggesting that's what you should do is exactly that. Utterly and completely absurd. So through these first two games, now LeBron James has played 79 minutes. It's an awful lot to ask. An awful lot to ask of someone to go 79 minutes through two games at that age and still think they'll have something left after that point. So it was still entertaining. It was still wildly entertaining. And great moment at the end for Jamal Murray, obviously. And I don't expect Jamal Murray to be that cold most games. I think you got your shot if you're the Lakers last night. That's your chance to steal a game, and you pissed it away. That was it. That was your opportunity. The playoffs continue, obviously, tonight. And I wish I could tell you that I'm terribly compelled by any of these first-round series, but I'd be lying to you.
Suns T-Wolves?
Nope, not even remotely. Suns are unserious. I've told you that a million times.
Thinking Kevin Durant's coming back to OKC, and he'll team up with all these young kids and finally bring OKC a championship.
Okay. And what do you want me to say about that?
You're Kevin Durant.
He's not mine.
Well, he plays for your team.
He plays for the team that I root for. That's true. They're a very unserious team. If you believe that Kevin Durant is capable of being second fiddle,
might even be like third.
No, I think you're only deferring to Shea in those moments.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's crazy. I get the thought process that like they could just use one more thing to maybe get over the hump. I guess let's watch, right? Like maybe they surprise us this year and they are really ready to do this. And if that's the case, then you're obviously not doing that. But if they fall short, even if they say lose to the Nuggets the way that I think most people would expect them to, should they get to the Western Conference Finals, I think it would be an interesting storyline. I just think that we are Father Time catches up with all. I know that Tom Brady made us believe that's not the case. Truth be told, I don't think the Lakers win the bubble title if it had been a real basketball season. Now, part of even the bubble title, even that championship, still had to involve it being like an Anthony Davis story, right? Anthony Davis was the reason why they won that title. But I think you got as much out of LeBron James as you did because there was a break in the season. Because the totality of the amount of games being played during the course of the year hadn't caught up with LeBron James. And give LeBron credit for as many games as he plays. I do think LeBron, first of all, give the Lakers credit for even trying. They already won their championship this year, obviously. They won the one that matters. So credit them for even bothering to go through it, right? Like
the sham that they call the NBA playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, they won. There was a champion. I saw the banner. They won the championship. So the fact that they're even out there pretending like this thing matters, that you got to give them a lot of credit for that. It's just, this is the reality of the circumstances. Counting on what Steph did a couple years ago, willing that team to a title when it was just him. Now that, if there's a healthy Jamal Murray that year, I don't think that happens. But he did it. I just think it's extraordinarily difficult to ask guys at this age to will a team to a title. And I think the Suns are kind of learning that. Like, Kevin Durant can still be absolutely amazing in moments. But to will a team to a title? Nah. Those days are over. I mean, they are. They're over. And it's fine. Like, that's the way this goes. Frankly, I'm surprised that the next era hasn't taken over more than they already have. Like, we're starting to see it. And I think Shea and Anthony Edwards are absolutely going to be stars of stars for the next 8 years. And like their chances of winning titles. And Jokic, of course, is that guy. Now, he's needed the complementary piece. He's needed to have a healthy Murray. If Giannis was healthy, I don't know what the Bucks would be. It's hard to tell. The Bucks are maybe the most confusing team in the history of basketball this year. Why didn't that work better? Like, on paper, that should have been such a slam dunk. And it hasn't been the case. I think it speaks to how truly extraordinary the triumvirate of LeBron, Durant, and Curry are, that they have been this relevant this deep in their careers. I mean, we're literally talking 2 years ago, Steph Curry willed his team to a championship. Almost by himself. This is impossible. Like, it's really unfathomable that he was able to do that at 34 years old. But to continue to ask him to do that at 36? I mean, come on. It was never going to happen. Never. And to continue to ask LeBron to do it at 40? I mean, Kevin Durant, to continue to ask him to do it, and I get that he's the youngest of the trio, but, in this scenario where he were to go to Oklahoma City next year, he'd also be 36 at that point. We're just not being realistic. So can Kevin Durant accept that? He came to Phoenix saying all the right things about being second fiddle to Devin Booker, but it's also never fully worked. You've never really known whose show it was. And in fairness, they had the same problem between Devin Booker and Chris Paul when Chris Paul was there, because Chris Paul was always, hey, and I'll be the closer. I'll be the guy. I'm the alpha in the final minutes. And would just go try to mid-range jumper you to death. And in fairness, it got them within 2 games of winning a real NBA title. Doesn't mean anything. They came up 2 games short. They never won the last 2. I don't know. Sure, Kevin Durant, Oklahoma City. I would almost say I don't want to screw with it. I would almost rather just have role players to try to fill that around and let these guys continue to develop. I don't know what 36-year-old Kevin Durant. I hate feeling like I'm disparaging Kevin Durant because I love Kevin Durant. I hate how we've treated Kevin Durant's story and made him a kind of a joke because he went to the Warriors. Kevin Durant is one of the most unique offensive forces we've ever seen in the history of basketball. But I kind of don't want him getting in the way of what I'm doing. What I'm doing's working. I kind of don't want to screw with that. In hindsight, I think we might go back and look at those. I think the Suns' overreaction to what happened after they lost in the NBA Finals could be studied for a long time. Everybody was still excited about the idea of bringing Kevin Durant. At that point, Kevin Durant was still, 32, 30?
When the Suns brought him in?
Yeah, 32.
That was the last season, right?
Was it only last year?
Yeah, it was only last year. Yeah, because it was traded right before. So
he was already 34 at that point.
Yeah.
So in hindsight, you could look back and say, because his birthday's in September, it wasn't a thing where the birthday got in the way. Or I guess he would have been 30. So he would have been 33.
Yeah.
Wait, no.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because he turned 35 in September, so he would have been 34. Right, yeah, he would have been 34 when they brought him in. So I think you could look back on that and say that was an overreaction. They tried to. Or was it really just last year? Wow.
It was last February because you came in here and you were like,
yeah, Kevin Durant. I remember screaming, but I don't know why I thought it was the year before that. I don't know how time works anymore, man. I've kind of given up on time. I have no idea how time goes. Why is everybody calling me this morning? What do they want from me? What did I do? Did I win something? Did I win an award? Anyway, I just don't. I don't have the juice. It was nice to have an exciting night of basketball. I saw a lot of people saying this might be the greatest TNT doubleheader of all time. Maybe, but like the thing that I don't even know how much it would have mattered if the Lakers had somehow won that game last night. It wouldn't have changed my opinion about the ultimate. I think that if the Sixers had won last night, that might have changed my opinion about that series. But that's also difficult because I don't believe that either of those teams is capable of winning a title. And I guess you're not allowed to say that. We're all supposed to pretend like basketball's so much better when the Knicks are good. Like, I'm sorry. That has never done anything for me and never will do anything for me. It definitely feels that way to everybody in New York, and I understand New York's the biggest market in the country, so we're just supposed to pretend that way. But I've never felt that. It has never meant anything to me. So if that does something for you as a neutral observer, like, hey, it's the Garden and it's New York and God bless. But I care about what teams I genuinely believe have a chance to win a championship, and I don't believe the Knicks genuinely have a chance to win a championship. If they were fully healthy, I still don't know that I would believe that they would genuinely. I get it. Jalen Brunson's fun to watch, man. I've enjoyed it. But I don't believe that they really have a chance to win a championship. I just believe there are so few teams that genuinely have the opportunity to win a championship unless somebody gets hurt. And that is part of the problem here. Is I say this in the context of it just feels like we're walking towards the coronation of the Nuggets team that probably if Jamal Murray had been healthy more frequently, probably would already be a dynasty now. And it's just sort of delayed that we're getting to that point because Jamal Murray dealt with injuries.
Writing off the Celtics
until they prove otherwise. I just feel that strongly about the Nuggets, man. I just think that they are inevitable. I think Nikola Jokic is Thanos. He's inevitable. It's the way it's going to go. He's better than everybody else is, and without really trying. All right, don't know what's going on with Robinson Chirinos. We will try again to track him down before the end of the show. I know he was out, apparently somewhere in the Middle East and was going to join us despite that. So don't know what that story is, but we'll try to find him before the day ends. When we come back in, we will catch up on what's going on in the world of local high school sports. CountySports.Zone Radio with our friend Wes Brown is next. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
Hey Birdland, celebrate Orioles manager Brandon Hyde on Saturday, April 27th. Watch the Orioles take on the Oakland Athletics at 4:05. Be one of the first 20,000 fans 15 and over and receive an exclusive Brandon Hyde 2023 AL Manager of the Year bobblehead. Come out early. Gates will open 2 hours prior to the first pitch for Early Bird Saturdays with happy hour, live music, and more. Join in on honoring the O's skipper and buy your tickets today at Orioles.com/tickets.
Hartford Community College will host the National Junior College Athletic Association's 2024 Men's Lacrosse National Championship and Women's Lacrosse Invitational on May 11th and 12th at Hartford Sports Complex, 401 Thomas Run Road in Bel Air, Maryland. The semifinals on May 11th include the Women's Invitational, with the Women's North A representative playing the Mid-Atlantic B representative at 10 a.m., and the Women's North B representative facing off against the Mid-Atlantic A representative at 12:30 p.m. For the men's championship, the number 1 seed will play the lowest remaining seed in the quarterfinal round at 3:30 p.m. The men's number 2 seed will face off against the highest remaining seed at 6 p.m. May 12th is reserved for the national championship games at noon for the women and 4 p.m. for the men. Tickets are $20 each day at HartfordEvents.com or at the gate if available.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Hungry? With 7 locations throughout Maryland, Glory Days Grill is always right around the corner. They have wings, burgers, salads, sandwiches, and drinks to satisfy everyone, as well as tons of televisions and sound delivered right to your phone. Glory Days is the best place to watch football or whatever your favorite sport is. While you're there, be sure to check out Goose Flights Lager, named in honor of legendary Raven Tony Goose Siragusa. $2 of every can is donated to the Goose Flights Foundation. Glory Days Grill. Great food, good sports.
Oh, honey, we better stop for gas soon. Let's pull into that Royal Farms.
Ugh, gas is so expensive.
Nope, it'll be cheaper than you think.
Why's that?
I signed up for Rofo Pay on the Royal Farms app. Now we save 15 cents per gallon at all Royal Farms.
Wow, that'll save us a ton of money. I love you more every day.
Well then, don't get a speeding ticket this trip, okay?
Sign up for Rofo Rewards and upgrade to Rofo Pay and save 15 cents a gallon on gas for a limited time. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
What company has the expertise to make your home healthier by purifying your air and killing all viruses, allergens, and bacteria? A.J. Michaels, Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
Coming back in here with Glenn and the other guy, Garrett, whatever his name is. You know who they are.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along on a Tuesday edition of the program. And every Tuesday we try to get caught up on what's going on in the world of high school sports locally as we check in with County Sports Zone and our friend Wes Brown from County Sports Zone for County Sports Zone Radio. Wes, good morning. How are you, pal?
Good. How are you?
I am all right. Another busy week in local lacrosse. And I guess let's start on the private school side of things. And, boy, boys Latin looks really good, huh?
Yeah. Boys Latin now 10-1 overall, 6-0 in league play. Pretty much kind of running away with the league there, but there are some challengers. Gilman and Calvert Hall are 4-1 in league play, and then Spalding and McDonough are right behind them at 4-2.
And then like a kind of a big night on tap tonight with some of those teams right there at the top.
Yeah, we got Boys Latin versus McDonough, so a chance for McDonough to, pull one back for the whole group there, but also Gilman and Calvert Hall are facing off, so there will be some more separation there between second and third.
Yeah, it seems like a really big night, as we are kind of deep into the regular season at this point.
Yeah, so we have about 2 weeks left here for lacrosse, 1 week left for baseball.
Jeez. All right, so let's go over to the softball side of things. Tell us about our athlete of the week this week.
Yeah, so another two-headed monster there with Addie Cornelius and Sam Waters from Broadneck Softball. Part of a 15-0 win last week. Cornelius started going 3 for 3 in 3 up, 3 down innings. And then, she ended up striking out 7 of the 9 batters she faced. So pretty great start there. And then Waters came in and closed it out, striking out 6 of the 7 she faced. So a nice two-headed monster there. Gave up just 1 hit combined between the two of them.
Awesome. Addie Cornelius, Sam Waters from Broadneck. All right, so lay it out for us, as you just alluded to, right? Like the next couple of weeks, what does this look to? It feels like we just transitioned out of basketball season, but here we are approaching the end of spring sports season. So walk me through what the next couple of weeks looks like. When do we get things set for the playoffs?
Yeah, the spring season always seems to come and go so quickly, but last week of regular season play for MIA baseball and their lacrosse lasts until the end of the month here, but about a week from those first playoffs starting, and then the first week of May there is going to be kind of the big one with MIA lacrosse, IAM lacrosse, but also MPSSAA starting on the May 6th and 7th is when we'll have the brackets come out. So it'll be a really busy May for championships.
And so I was going to say, what is championship week for on the public school side for lacrosse and for baseball and softball?
Yeah, so all those championships will happen the week before Memorial Day weekend.
Okay.
So and that like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
All right, so we are getting there. All right, remind everybody about County Sports Zone, Wes.
Yeah, so County Sports Zone is the home for all schedules and scores for high schools across the state of Maryland, private school, public school. We have all those schedules and scores up. We've also got Angel Fire gaming contest, so you can pick between baseball and girls lacrosse games. We got a bunch of slates up for this week, so feel free to get in there and compete against some other fans.
Awesome. It's all at CountySports.Zone, which is brought to you by your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com, and of course on social media, Wes.
Yeah, at CSC Scores on social media.
Very good, and he's at W_Brown21. Wes Brown, always appreciate you, man. We'll talk again next Tuesday, all right?
All right, sounds good.
It's County Sports Zone Radio with our buddy Wes Brown, brought to you again by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. So, a couple of things from Dan. Dan says, Glenn, appreciate your point about all the lineup options. I feel like at this point you have to bring up Kjerstad and let him play. What are his split? Dan, you've got the internet. Why is somebody asking me what Heston Kjerstad's splits have been? Here I am. I'll go ahead and Google. Don't worry, Dan. I'll take care of it. I'll be your Google. Sorry.
Should we guess what his splits are? You do that.
I don't know. I also don't know how many. He only has 21 at bats so far against lefties this season, and they're pretty dramatic. His numbers against lefties
are much lower.
Yeah, he's hitting 238. Now that's in a small sample size. I don't know if I can track down numbers from last year. Splits for 2023. I think they're only going to have his major league data. Yeah, only have his major league data for last year. So I don't know how dramatic they've been throughout the course of the minors. Heston Kjerstad splits. Yeah, I only get this year. Hang on. Wait a second. Nope, take that back. I can pull up 23 on MLB.com. Last year, he only had 51 at-bats against lefties.
But he hit him.
Yeah, you're right. He hit 333. 414, and
he actually hit him better than righties.
Yes, OPS 1,000.
And smaller sample size.
Yeah, very small. A small sample size for a season. I'm wondering. It's interesting that he only got 51 at-bats. I know part of that, he was up at the bigs last year, and that's part of the story. But it is interesting. I wonder if that's not the full season numbers. I wonder if that's
like if
only at one. Hang on a second. Yeah, those are only his numbers from Bowie. We don't have his numbers from Norfolk against lefties a year ago. Probably if I paid money to somebody, I could get all this information, but I just don't do that. I to the thought of, do you bring him up here and try to get him to hit lefties every day? I think I might be surprised if that were the case. Honestly, I think at this point, you're probably bringing him up specifically to hit against righties because you have enough of a difficulty trying to get everybody in the lineup. So I don't think that you just say, hey, Heston Kjerstad's an everyday player at this point. Because, again, him being an everyday player requires someone else to not be. And I think you're committed to Colton Cowser being an everyday player. Maybe we find out that doesn't even make sense because they're both lefties. How would you not be committed to having hit against? I guess if you didn't want to have Colton Cowser hit against lefties, you could have Heston Kjerstad try to hit against. I don't think that makes sense. I don't think it would make sense. I think we're beyond the part. That's the type of thing that, again, in 2022 you did. You call up Heston Kjerstad in 22, you say, hey, you get a shot to hit against lefties too. Let's see what you can do. I don't think you're doing that in 2024. I think the time for experimenting is over. It's enough of a difficulty to figure out how you're getting him in the lineup against righties. Somebody's got to go that you don't really want out of the lineup in order to get Heston Kjerstad in the lineup against righties. So, no, I don't think that you bring him up here just say, hey, he's here. He's got to play every day. I don't think that's going to be the reality. Also, how many lefties are they slated to face? I have no idea who's even in the Athletics. I know one starting pitcher for the Athletics. I know Sears. That's the list.
Paul Blackburn's off to a good start. I think he's a righty. So.
I don't even know what the options would be. I don't know how many lefties they'd even be slated to face over the course of the next couple of weeks. So I think it's a figure it out type of thing, and I think it's the type of thing that you're going to have to accept If all of these guys are going to be here, they can't all play every day. And if that's you screaming, well, then somebody's got to go, tell me who. Again, I'd be okay. Ironically, they had Ramon Arias playing first base last night, which was
biggest glove I've ever seen.
Just weird. Although he looked okay.
Play.
Yeah, right. Like he looked all right at first base. I've said before, I'd be okay with just saying it's time for Ramon Arias to go, but there's nothing clean about that. Ramon Arias got in the lineup last night against a lefty. The guys that you're trying to make room for are not guys that you are fighting to have in the lineup against lefties. So, I'd be fine with it just for the roster spot. Who's the guy of this group? Gunnar, Adley, O'Hearn, Cowser, Mullen, Santander, Holiday, Westberg, Mountcastle. Because they're all 9 guys that you'd want to have in the lineup against right-handed pitchers. All 9 of them right now. Not one of them do you want to bench against a right-handed starter. So tell me of that group, which of those guys are you comfortable saying goodbye to?
I mean, there's not an answer.
No.
Make them all draw straws before the game starts.
Sorry, you're out.
Ooh, it's like O'Hearn. I guess you're
real bummer that Adley Rutschman is going to have to be DFA'd. Maybe we regret playing the draw straws game now. But that's the reality of what we're talking about. The reality is you have a lot of dudes. They're not all going to be able to play every day. And we're going to scream about it, and we're going to say, what the hell is this guy doing putting this lineup together? We're going to do all that nonsense. But there's, just against righties, 10 guys that I want to have in the lineup. And can't possibly have them all in the lineup. Math don't math. And none of them are someone that I would be comfortable saying, well, that guy can go. Not at all. I keep saying it. We keep walking through it. Great problem to have. I used to dream of days like this. But when we all scream and look at a lineup and say, what is this? They all can't be in the lineup. That's the reality of it. They all can't be. It'd be interesting to see. I would maybe assume that Mountcastle sits the first time to make sure that Kjerstad gets in the lineup tonight. That seems like that would be the play.
He's got the knee soreness, so we'll.
What's that?
He's got the knee soreness. This is what they said.
I think that's going to be the answer for tonight.
Yeah.
But I don't think you're just going to keep sitting Ryan Mountcastle against righties. I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't think we're at a place where Ryan Mountcastle should be a platoon player. Felt that way last summer. I don't think we're there today. So I think there'll be other days where he's going to have to be somebody else. I don't know. I don't have those answers. That's going to have to be above my pay grade. All right. It is hour number 1 is in the books on a Tuesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. Patrick Stevens will join us here in just a second as we will get caught up on the week that was in local college sports. Today's show brought to you by Sports and Social, the best place to watch all of the big events. Imagine what the atmosphere must have been like last night at Sports and Social for those games. Everybody having action on them. Of course, the draft on Thursday night. The best place to be, Sports and Social, inside Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Reserve your spots. If that's where you want to be Thursday night, then you can reserve your table by going to the Live Casino and Hotel Maryland website and clicking on the Sports and Social tab. Or you can reserve a blue reclining chair just by heading over to Sports and Social and Live Casino and Hotel Maryland and plopping down, wandering up to the desk at the FanDuel Sportsbook and saying, I want to be here for a big event. Live Casino and Hotel Maryland, Sports and Social, the best place to watch all of the big events. Guess let's grab a break, then we'll chat with, what's that? Okay. It's been a morning. It's been a morning here on GCR. I hope Griffin's got his dance routine prepared. because we might be pulling that out at some point soon. We might be getting to that moment before too long, where Griffin does the dance number that I've warned him he's going to have to do at some point. All right, every Tuesday we like to check in on what's going on in the world of local college sports. Joining us now, of course, from the Washington Post, USA Lacrosse Magazine. You follow him on Twitter at Discourse, D1S Course. He is our friend, Mr. Patrick Stevens, and he's back with us this morning on GCR. Patrick, good morning, man. How are you? Thanks for taking the time for us, as always.
I am well. How are you doing today, Glenn?
I'm all right, Patrick. I'm going to ask this question, and I realize, there's no – it's the type of thing that we do with professional sports when teams make additions. So Maryland adds 2 more transfers last week. When you look at their roster today, as constructed, what do you see in that Maryland basketball group?
I certainly see a team that's going to have a more well-rounded backcourt.
Yeah.
I don't know if any of the guys that they've picked up, whether it's Gillespie from Belmont, Miguel from South Florida, or Rodney Rice from Virginia Tech, or even, they obviously still have Deshaun Harris-Smith. But I don't think any of those guys is as good as what Jameer Young was.
Sure.
And probably won't be. But I do think that in aggregate, the backcourt is going to be better. Do I think that they have a Big Ten level point guard? I don't know. I mean, I think the hope is that Gillespie, who was a 4-assist-a-game guy at Belmont, can fill that role. And I think that's one of those things that you don't know until you see it, right? I don't know if anybody would have thought that Jameer Young was going to be able to deal with that portion of things as well as he did until he got to the Big Ten and you saw it. So, I don't know if the kid that they picked up from Georgia Tech last week is anything more than just a 15-minute-a-game guy to plug in the front court. But that's something that has value too. I'm going to remain skeptical of anything until I see it in action, basically. I think this is probably a better team than last year, but I don't know if it's a team that's much more than a borderline NCAA tournament team at best. I could be wrong on that because everybody, there's so many teams out there that are basically doing different, basically are revamping their roster.
Sure.
It's hard to be able to sort of pinpoint that. But I think this is a team that will be certainly a little bit better and almost certainly more watchable, even if its best player isn't as good as Jameer Young was the last couple of
years. I remember a year ago before the season began, you and I had a conversation. It was like this team will probably go about as far as their freshmen are ready to go, and the answer on that was they were not ready to go.
They were not.
They were dramatically not ready. I wonder if
I think
if it's similar with both the holdover and Harris Smith and Queen next year, that how good the team is capable of being will be dependent upon how good those guys are capable of being.
It's those are supposed to be their best guys, right? Talent wise, if we assume the recruiting people all know what they're talking about, we would probably think that those two guys plus Reese are their most talented guys. So, I think first of all, expecting freshman bigs to control things is a really, really dicey thing to do, no matter who you are or where you are, for a couple of reasons. One, you have to be able to physically hold up, and that's not. Some can, but not all can. And two, somebody has to get you the ball. So, I'm always skeptical of the idea of, well, this freshman big is going to absolutely change everything for a team. Some do, but more often than not, there's a definite learning curve there that you just kind of have to deal with. So, I think for Maryland, you absolutely are going to need not just these transfers that you picked up, and I would assume that there's probably at least one more on the way.
Sure.
But you're also going to need a Deshaun Harris-Smith to get better. You're going to need a Julian Reese, to basically blossom in a way that he hasn't had the opportunity to because he's been playing the 5. He's going to have the chance, theoretically here, to play a lot more 4 than he ever has. And that's always been kind of the spot where you're like, well, that's probably where he would be best suited, even if he has been a ferocious rebounder a lot of the time, playing the 5. He's probably better suited to play the 4. So I think they'll be better. I think they'll definitely be more watchable, but how much better remains to be seen, not just because you don't know how all their pieces are going to fit together, but you don't know how the pieces of so many other teams are going to fit together either. So,
Mount St. Mary's has a new basketball coach. What should we know?
Mount St. Mary's has kind of followed the game plan that has worked for them over most of the last 20 years, basically since Jim Phelan retired. You look at it, and this is now their fifth head coach since then. And of the previous four, three of them had prior experience at Mount St. Mary's, whether that was Milan Brown being on Jim Phelan's staff,
right.
Jamie and Christian playing at Mount St. Mary's, and Dan Engelstad coaching as an assistant at Mount St. Mary's. Donnie Lind has assistant coaching experience at Mount St. Mary's. They're young. All of those guys were reasonably young when they were hired. And those three guys that I previously mentioned all took a team to the NCAA tournament, or at least one team to the NCAA tournament. So, you start checking those boxes off, and Donnie Lind was he's a former Loyola team manager who went to VCU. That's where he kind of got to know Jamie and Christian and was an assistant up at the Mount for a little while. And so this is a guy that is, knows the area, was spent the last few years at Radford and then at UNC Greensboro with Mike Jones, not the Mike Jones that was on Maryland's staff, but the Mike Jones who had been on the Final Four staff at VCU and is one of the best defensive coaches you could ever hope to come across. So I would expect Mount St. Mary's to be very capable of playing strong defense, no matter who ends up on that roster. It'll be interesting to see exactly how things go on that front. It's obviously a late hire out of necessity because Dan Engelstad didn't leave until roughly after the Final Four. But I think that's a good hire that fits the pattern of what has succeeded at Mount St. Mary's, to the extent that you can reasonably succeed, right? Like it's making the tournament and having a number of pretty good teams. That's what's worked at Mount St. Mary's, and they stuck with the formula.
Just with that maybe being a little bit more difficult in the new conference than it was in the previous conference, right?
Yeah, but I will say that, all teams in their league are going to suffer from the same problem that they do.
That's fair.
Which is the second you have a good player,
they're
somebody's
being
going to
rated.
come raid you or try to raid you. The thing that I said about Mount St. Mary's and the NEC, and it's held up, like they have a real fan base. Like, I don't know if you've ever been up to the Knott Arena, but they have an actual fan base up there.
Yeah.
And it's they were easily had the best fan base in the NEC for the most part. I mean, Robert Morris had a decent one too. In the Metro Atlantic, like Siena's head and shoulders above everybody else. Like that's the thing to do in Albany is to go see Siena play. But after that, Mount was actually third in attendance in the league this year behind Siena and Fairfield, which has a gleaming new arena. So it has that advantage. Like it's a place that you kind of want to go play if you can ignore the fact that it's like an hour plus from both Baltimore and DC. It's a really weird dynamic that they do have that fan base, but it's also not necessarily like a lot of those Metro Atlantic schools where you're in a city or close to it. So, but I think there's a lot of advantages simply to having, an environment where you're really supported. It's kind of one of those small town type of schools that you would think, you feel like those things are all throughout the Midwest, right? And all throughout the South where that's sort of the center of attention. And in Emmitsburg, that is the center of attention. And, the fact that people care up there helps compared to a place that's going to be even more transient and people aren't even going to notice it in this era of players moving back and forth as often as they are right now.
That's fair. Patrick Stevens with us here on GCR. Obviously, it was a big weekend in lacrosse this past weekend, particularly two big games locally. We start with Hopkins, Maryland. How much of the story of Maryland only scoring 5 goals is what Hopkins did defensively versus, and obviously only 3 of them being even strength goals, Maryland just being a very inconsistent offensive team who's never really put it all together through the course of the season?
Yeah, I think it's both. I mean, I think that's probably about a 50-50 because Hopkins has been playing really, really good defense. And you looked at the number of guys that had really standout games for them, whether it was defensemen like Bowden Zulik and Scott Smith, whether it was the goalie Chase Erlin. You look at the short sticks, a group that's led by Brett Martin. They had a great game. they really just bottled Maryland up in every way imaginable. And think about this for Hopkins' defense. In the 5 games in conference play, in the fourth quarter and overtime, which for them is about 80 minutes, so 15 by 5 plus a couple overtimes, got out to about 5 minutes of overtime work. Tell me which is more impressive, that Chase Erlin had a .667 save percentage in the fourth quarter and overtime in those 5 games, or that Johns Hopkins allowed only 21 shots on goal in those fourth quarters and overtime. I mean, they're both amazing numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, credit to Erlin for great play down the stretch.
Yep.
But they basically didn't give people opportunities to do anything against them late in conference play. So I come away really impressed with the way the Hopkins defense has worked. I think it's been a good year for defenses in the Big Ten, which is sort of amazing because coming into the year, the thought was there were all these attackmen all over the place, and it was going to be a rough year for defensive coordinators. And in that league in particular, the defenses have kind of ruled. But for Maryland, you shoot 5 of 33, it's not going to get it done. And that's not 19 turnovers in a game like that is not going to get it done. And so that was a season high in turnovers for Maryland. I thought defensively, if you're Maryland, you feel pretty good about what you did. I think maybe you feel like there were 1 or 2 in the first half you wish you could have back, but you gave up 1 goal in the second half. I mean, and granted, Hopkins wasn't exactly super aggressive about doing anything other than milking the clock in the fourth quarter. But you still only gave up 1 goal in the second half. So, I think one of the big differences in that game was, Maryland didn't quite have all of its P's and Q's going there in the first quarter, and Jacob Angelis got switched onto a short stick twice and was able to make Maryland pay. That's 2 goals. That is the difference between us talking about a 6-5 overtime and a game and a 7-5 game right now. So I think Maryland showed its limitations on offense for sure, but Hopkins deserves a lot of credit for having an excellent defense.
I still don't know what to make of Loyola, but here we are, right? Like they head into the biggest game of the year at home on Friday night with everything in front of them, and certainly feeling like they should be confident given how they've played, coming off a win on the road at Navy. It still sort of feels incomplete to me, Patrick. Am I wrong to feel that way?
That game felt like they were up 4-1 after a quarter on Navy, and then it was just kind of keeping Navy at bay. The Mids got within 1 a couple times. It wasn't anything close to a perfect game for Loyola. It did get a 12-26 showing on faceoffs.
Which for them,
we've talked about this all season. You take that. You absolutely take a 50-50 scrap and or roughly a 50-50 scrap and go with it. And so, you got good goalie play, 12 saves for Luke Stout. I did not walk away overwhelmed, but I also, had to respect the fact that they kind of have a better sense, I think, of who they are right now. Patra had 3 goals. Evan James, who has, sort of made a career out of destroying Navy, it feels like, had 3 goals, and Matthew Minikas had 2 and 1. They got a transition goal or 2 in there. They just kind of did their thing. And, I'm still not sure there's a huge difference between any of these top 6 Patriot League teams. I do think that Friday against Army is a different kind of test for them. But like you said, everything's in front of them. If they win, they get a bye into the semifinals, which I think is just absolutely vital for them. If they win and get a little bit of help, they could be the number 1 seed, basically. So a Loyola win and a Boston U win does the trick for them to be able to be the number 1 seed in the conference tournament. There's also a scenario where if Colgate and Lehigh also win, which could very well happen, and they win, and Navy wins, they need Navy to actually win to be part of another tiebreaker. If they get that, they can be the number 1 seed. So there's 5 out of the 8 combinations of results this weekend of the Patriot League, where if Loyola wins, it gets the 1 seed. If it loses, it gets the 2 seed. And it'll be out, obviously, of a shot at a first round bye if they do lose that game. But it is a loyal team that's playing well, and it's kind of hard to make sense of who's actually the best team in that league on a week-to-week basis.
I'm actually just imagining in my mind how many Patriot League SIDs reached out to you to try to get all of the breakdown of the tiebreakers.
Well, I did it last night.
Okay.
So, I kind of went through it. It was that was a fun little puzzle to try to put together.
It is complicated. It is. And then the other big game, I guess, this week is Towson, Delaware, right?
Yeah, and that's where I'm going to be headed up to on Friday up in Newark. I saw Towson on Saturday, was able to sneak over there before going down to Hopkins, and it was one of those games where it was almost over before it started. Towson was up 3-0 5 minutes in, and Monmouth really never was able to manage much of anything in a 17-2 game. And so, Towson continues to roll. They're 10-3. They're hosting the conference tournament regardless. I walked away impressed with just the relentlessness of that defense. Monmouth had more turnovers, 27, than shots taken, 23, which I think tells you what you need to know about the work that Towson did. They were credited with 17 caused turnovers. Monmouth had 7 failed clears. Towson just sort of, did what it wanted in the first quarter, and from there it was just a matter of, well, if you feel like scoring, go ahead. And so, they didn't necessarily dominate on offense. It felt like, I joked to someone in the press box that Towson might be the first team to go into a 4-minute offense with 4 minutes to go in the first half. But they play great, and clearly playing this matchup with Delaware, let's face it, probably the first of 2 of them.
Right.
I think that's the game everybody in that conference has been looking forward to all year. I certainly believe that those 2 teams could very well see each other again a week from Saturday in the conference final.
All right, let's get into our game. Can Patrick Stevens name the MLB teams that this particular player has played for or managed? And we're getting low on managers in the modern era that have 4 or more teams. So this one was a barn burner for me, but knowing you'll have no problem with it. 4 teams for someone who never won a World Series as a manager. I don't know how he kept getting all this many opportunities, but 4 teams for Renee Latchman is our 4-team manager.
Renee Latchman. Wow. Okay. Well, he was definitely in Milwaukee.
Mm-hmm.
And he was in Seattle.
That's where he started, 81 to 83.
He was the very first manager of the Florida Marlins.
93 to 96.
And so there's a really short stint.
You know what? I actually feel really bad about this. He was an interim manager. This should not count. This should not.
All right. Well,
I did not catch this when I was doing this list. I am sorry. But oh my God, it's so much worse. You know what? You can. Yeah. It was for 1 game. I'm sorry, Patrick. This is on
would
me.
You like the? Do you want to even the odds by giving me the year?
2002. He was. It's so bad. I'm sorry. I feel genuinely terrible.
So he had a spare game somewhere.
1 game as interim manager.
1
game. And I can't even come up with what the circumstances were. Hang on. Let me see if I can figure out what the circumstances were, because this is so painfully unfair. So all I did is I looked at a list of how many teams a certain person has managed, and I saw Renee Latchman's, and I said, oh, great, 4 teams. Got it. We got our guy. And I did no further work after this. So this is my fault entirely, as I now look and see that he was not actually the manager. He filled in for 1 game. Let me see what the story was. Okay, so they had 3 different managers during the course of the year. They fired the first. I can't get the date, though. He was the in-between.
He was the in-between guy.
Yes.
How about the Rockies?
No, not the Rockies. This is impossible. Although, I believe the guy that he replaced also once managed. You know what? I'm not going to give that away because it was somebody I was thinking about. All right, never mind. The answer, do you want the answer? It's the Cubs. It's the Cubs.
Sure.
The Cubs was the answer. He spent 1 game in 2002.
Okay, so he was between what? That was after what? Dusty and Piniella came after that, right?
Yes. So let me pull up a list of Cubs managers. So Man, I don't want to tell you who it was because I was thinking about doing something with this for our.
Well, don't worry about it. We'll
Okay.
we'll reassess some other time.
Yeah,
How's that?
we'll reassess at some point. How about a 4-team guy? How about Dimitri Young? We wrap with that.
All right. Well, that's actually harder than I would like.
Oh, okay.
He was
a two-time All-Star.
He was a two-time All-Star, and he was an All-Star with Detroit and Washington.
Certainly was.
Was he in Cincinnati?
He was in Cincinnati for 4 seasons, and he began 2 seasons in.
He began his career.
Yeah, began his career in '96 and '97.
96 and 97. Well, at least that eliminates 2 teams.
That's true. They did not exist. Couldn't be them.
That's weird because I don't remember. I thought he'd started his career in Detroit.
No, he started his career in '96. It was sparingly, but '97 he played a full season here.
Okay. Dimitri Young's first team.
Yeah, he had 258 and had 5 home runs.
I believe you. I just did not realize that he actually started someplace else. Was he? I don't know. Was he? Oh gosh. Let's throw a dart here. Let's throw the dart at Minnesota.
No, St. Louis. St. Louis is where
St. Louis.
the start
Okay.
was for Dimitri Young. All right, what else is on the docket besides Towson, Delaware this week?
That's it.
That's it. Very
That's
good. At Discourse, D1S Course is how you follow him. Patrick Stevens, always appreciate you, sir. We'll talk to you again next Tuesday, all right?
Awesome. Take care.
It's Patrick Stevens with us every Tuesday here on GCR. Appreciate him taking the time. By the way, God, the sports questions and trivia last night were so all right. Very, 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 very easy. I think we finished in 5th place last night. It was not a good night in general for us last night.
Out of 10?
I don't remember how many teams were there last night. Probably about that, in that range. It was not a good night. Yeah, I don't even know why really. Like we didn't get the final. That hurt us.
But it was all 3 game. It was a group. It was a
the
collective
final
effort.
was a good one though. It was what state was the most populous state in the first ever United States Census in 1790. And we were between 2 states, and we went with the wrong one.
I would be
if we had gotten it, we probably would have finished second.
Shoot, I'm between 3 now.
Yeah. We got to commit the one.
Virginia or New York?
Okay, we got to commit the one.
Virginia.
It was Virginia. We were between Virginia and Pennsylvania, and we decided to commit to Pennsylvania.
Was my 3rd, and then I was
like Philadelphia. So we booted that. And the sports question. The problem is I had no advantage because they were so easy that everyone got them. The first one was literally, what school did John Calipari leave Kentucky for?
They were red.
Yeah.
It was close by to Kentucky.
I'm like hearing other people in the restaurant who aren't even playing, like, "Hey, it's Harkin." Like, thanks. So easy. And then the other one was, who won the Masters?
Scotty.
Not kidding.
Scotty.
Those were the sports questions last night. I did not need to be
good
present.
thing you knew.
Yeah, did not need to be present for that. I did, however, boot. There was an extra point, a bonus point available for saying who finished in second at the Masters. And I knew exactly who it was, but I couldn't come up with it.
Finished second at the Masters because it wasn't close. Like it was.
Yeah, it's the problem, right? I kept saying that to everybody. I'm
Max Homa was close. Ludwig Oberg was close. I'll go Homa.
The other one.
It was Oberg?
It was Oberg. Yep, it was Oberg, 100%. Well. And I because they all booted at the end. Like, I had no. I'm like.
So who'd you go with? You just.
Homa. Yeah, we went with Homa.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
It's what it is, man. And it's funny too because I even said and I also couldn't think of like the guy. I was like, it could be that Aberg. Because all I remember was the guy that Andrew Stecca told me to. Andrew Stecca feverishly was texting me from Augusta, like, "Can you get some bets in for me?"
Oberg. Aberg.
Yeah.
Drew said he liked him too, and then I was all over him too. The problem is I put him with Wyndham Clark.
That really
left his clubs
screwed things up
on the plane or whatever. So
it was very disappointing. Like, you want there to be a trivia question that when you're the sports guy, like, maybe not everyone else in the bar is going to get. Like, maybe there's an advantage to being the sports guy on the team and not, hey, what were the biggest stories in sports the last 2 weeks? anything else. Anything else would be helpful. Like if they had asked, who's the new basketball coach at Kentucky, I don't think many people in the bar would have gotten that. Your boy would have. But I think it would have been a trouble. Or, hey, the guy that was at Arkansas, what school did he leave to go to? Would have been a question that perhaps.
Where did he go? I want to say A&M or something.
Not A&M, no.
Where did Musselman go?
Is a prominent football school, however.
Shoot, I do not know.
Really?
Yeah.
So he replaced a guy that left for SMU in the musical coaching department.
Calipari just overshadows everything.
I understand.
I know who's
you
coaching
don't remember
Michigan now.
you don't remember who the coach is at
SMU?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
No?
Yeah, wait.
It was a big story because everybody had to remember that SMU they thought it was a big step backwards. They're like, oh, right, ACC school now. Forgot about that.
Good move.
Former Johns Hopkins basketball coach, Andy Enfield.
Oh.
Andy Enfield is the new coach at SMU, which means that Eric Musselman went to
Johns Hopkins.
Are you serious?
I can't remember.
I thought you were the college hoops guy.
I know. I blacked out. I blacked out once. Outside of all.
This is bad, man.
All right, I'm sorry.
Andy Enfield, of course, was at USC, which is where Eric Musselman left Arkansas to go to, then replaced by John Calipari, who was replaced at Kentucky by
Mark Pope.
Thank you.
Now, who's coaching BYU?
Actually, I don't know that. I don't know who got the BYU job.
I'll throw my hat in the ring.
Oh, yeah? I think it was filled. I think I do think Kevin Young. Oh, right, who was a Suns assistant. I actually did know that.
Where was Kevin Young? So he came straight from the Suns?
Yes, he had been on the bench with the Suns.
Now who's on the bench with the
I
Suns?
don't have that answer. Or I don't know if he's maybe trying to do both until the end of the playoffs. Don't have. That's the end of the. I had forgotten that it was Kevin Young, frankly. The end of the road
I thought for a
me.
second we could have done this all day and just.
Yeah.
So Kevin Young came from.
Yeah. Who was the coach at SMU
at
before?
Pepperdine.
Who had been the coach at SMU before Andy Enfield? Yeah. I have no idea either because they were not in the ACC. They were in the AAC. Was it Rob Lanier? It was Rob Lanier was the coach at SMU.
Okay.
He left or maybe he was fired. He was fired. And he went to Rice.
Oh, okay.
Where he replaced.
I do have the Orioles records of on Friday nights now in the jersey.
Oh, you did that for Tidbit today?
Yeah, I did that. Because I have another tidbit. So if this.
Well, what the hell? I thought that was going to be Tidbit.
Well, I mean, you just want me to reveal what the record is?
Scott Parra had been the coach
or
at
have
Rice.
You guess?
I don't think Scott Parra has gotten a new job yet. So I think that the cycle ends with Scott Parra. That was something. I don't know what that was. Yeah,
mostly
never-ending cycle.
Who's moving around Texas?
All right, the Orioles record. So when did they introduce the
May 26th?
May 26th. So they played how many Friday night games last year?
On Friday home
games after introducing the.
They played 10.
10.
And then they played on that Saturday as well in the uniforms. Remember they wore them the next day against the Rangers because they debuted them against the Rangers. They lost by a lot, and then they wore them again and they lost by 2 on that Saturday.
Well, we already know they're 0 for 2 then.
Yes, we do.
So they wore 11 total. They wore the City Connect last year, 11 total games.
Correct.
And how many so far this year?
They've worn them once this year.
Once this year.
Yes,
So it's
and they lost
12 games that we're talking about. Well, you're giving away that I know they couldn't be. I now know they can't be 9-2.
Yeah.
They're 3-8 in the City
no.
Connect uniforms. They're 4-7.
No.
They're 5-6.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they were 5-6 last year.
What are they in all other Friday games?
All other Friday games,
Yes.
they were. Let me see. So last year overall they were 15-10, and then they were 5-6 in the City Connect.
Well, I thought, did you include this year in the City Connect?
Yeah. Okay. So 5-7 overall.
So 5-7 overall.
Yeah, when they're wearing the
5-7 wearing the City Connect uniforms.
Correct.
So Friday games last year they were 5-6, and you said overall on Fridays they were
15.
But hang on, one of those was a Saturday last year.
Yeah, so they were 5-5. They were 5-5 on
Fridays.
Fridays.
Okay.
So they were 10-5 on other all else Fridays.
So they were 10-5. Does that math work?
Yeah, then you take a 5 away from.
They were
5-5 in the City Connects at home.
Right.
So they're 10-5 in all other games on Fridays that they were not.
They played 5 more road Friday games than they played home Friday games last year.
Yeah. I mean, I get well. They also had like 5 Fridays before. They were
So they
3-0.
They played
were
25 Friday games last year.
Yes, correct.
Okay,
correct.
So they were 10-5.
They were 6-0 on Fridays leading up to. They were 6-0 on Fridays leading up to May 26th. 3-0 at home, 3-0 on the road. Then they brought out the City Connects. So then from that point forward, they went 9-10 overall on Fridays.
I might need the data from the previous year as well. After the arrival of Adley, after things started.
So on Friday,
nothing pre-Adley matters.
So this was also interesting.
Yes,
15-10 on Friday overall in 2023 last year.
Yes,
that was their worst day of the week. 15-10.
Their worst day of the week.
Yes, their best day of the week. Do you want to guess what their best day of the week was last year?
Their best day of the week was Sunday.
It was. They went 20-7 on Sundays.
I don't know why. I always felt like they won on Sundays.
They did very well on Sundays.
They played 27 Sunday games and 25
Friday games. They might have had
Friday
like a
games?
doubleheader in there, I would guess. Yeah.
Maybe. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And then like they didn't play
opening
the first
day.
Friday.
They didn't play on Friday. Well, no, I thought they moved opening day. They did. They moved opening day back to Friday last year.
Well, but like they still they opened in Boston and then they didn't play that Friday either. So.
Oh, okay. All right.
But yeah. They went 20-7.
Very interesting.
Yes.
Their
run differential, by the way, is -37 in the City Connects.
Seems like there's some.
When they lose by a lot.
Seems like there's a tweet, a data, like a thread that we could make about the City Connect uniforms.
In 2022.
But we need to tie it all together. We need to clean this up nicely so that it all.
Yeah.
I think we're on to something.
In 2022, they were 16-9 on Fridays, which was their best day of the week.
But we gotta also.
And then since May,
specifically after Adley's arrival, there were 16-9 Fridays in 22. And then
on Fridays since May.
Well, but you just need to pull up the schedule. You just need to look at the schedule. Yeah, it was the 3rd Saturday of May because it was the day of the Preakness. So you'd have to look at the 2022 schedule and take out the results for all of the Friday games before Adley Rutschman's arrival. Unless the data doesn't work for us, in which case we scrap it and we include the Fridays before Adley Rutschman's arrival, because this is about confirmation bias now.
The Orioles were so after Adley came up. So
Yes.
May 27th would be the 2022 would be the
First
Friday.
Friday with Adley.
The rest of 2022 they went 13-6 on Fridays overall.
I think we're on to something.
They're
And by we, of course,
29
mean me, because it's always been my theory that I just made you do the dirty work.
They're
on.
overall since Adley came up, they are 29-18 on Fridays. So if you take away the City Connect jerseys, they are 24 and 13.
29-18
overall.
They're 24 and 13.
Yes, 24 and 13.
Well, but that excludes that excludes the Friday for this year. There's a Friday this year too, so they'd be 29 and 19.
Yes.
And then 24 and 14. Right?
Well, actually, no, I did include this Friday. The 29 and 18 did include this year's Friday.
We got to clean this up. We got to clean this up before we share it out to the world.
They were so in 2022, before the City Connects, they were 9-3 at home, by the way, on Fridays. 9-3 at home on Fridays.
How interesting.
Then they started 2023 3-0 at home on Fridays. So essentially from 2022 up until the introduction of the
They
City
were
Connects,
12-3.
They were 12-3 at home on Fridays.
At home on Fridays. We gotta put all this together.
Yeah.
We gotta.
This is the Charlie Day.
100%. This is up on the board.
They were 12-3,
100%.
but then they were 5-7.
The point is that I'm right. The point is that I'm right.
They very well, yeah.
They absolutely should not wear these effing uniforms on Friday.
They're very much cursed. Also, I mean, you can also add in technically an extra loss because one of the games that they won last year wearing the City Connects, Felix Bautista, hurt his arm. So that might as well count as like 10 losses.
We really should be
after that night, they honestly should have, threw him in the garbage.
We really should be making a long form video about this. Like legitimately should be making a long form video.
We got to script it out and
yes, I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
Like we should be, and you should have images ready to put up on the screen. Like I'm not kidding. This should be a long form video.
It's conspiracy for sure.
This is as bad as I thought it was. This is as bad, frankly, if not worse than I thought it was. They got to burn them. They just have to burn them. They have no choice. Again, I wouldn't if they were wearing the Ravens mustard pants and they were winning, I wouldn't care. Yes, I happen to not like the City Connect jerseys. That's true. Although I do like the hats.
Yeah, the hats are all right.
But if they were, I wouldn't care. If they were winning games wearing them, I wouldn't care. They lose all the time. Or far more disproportionately anyway.
Yeah.
Wearing these
They're
uniforms.
still a good team, so they find ways to win.
Yes, correct. They're not awful.
Yeah.
They don't turn into the White Sox.
Imagine if this was 2 years ago they introduced the City Connect, or 3 years ago. They might
never
win a game
100%.
ever.
Might have never become the Orioles. Boy, this seems deep. We should have led with this today, Griffin. Why didn't you? When we were scrambling.
Oh, we had a big Al.
And I was talking about the NBA, which I don't even actually care about at the moment. Just happened to be 2 good games last night, and so everybody was talking about it. You didn't bother to say, "Hey, by the way."
Well, because I wasn't sure.
Got that information you were looking for, and as it turns out, it's pretty damning. We gotta put
Just
this all
cancel
together.
All the Friday games.
I've got too many numbers now on my sheet of the numbers that I was scrambling to write down on my sheet of paper. We gotta dress that up much more nicer.
The 12-3 number seems the biggest. Starting in 2022 when the
12-3 at home, not
from 2022 until May 19th of 2023. They were 12-3 at home.
And since then,
they have gone
5-6.
5-6. Add this year 5-7.
It includes a Saturday, but
yeah, you're right. It does.
Right.
Yes,
but that's fine. So that's fine because they were wearing the uniforms, and the uniforms are the problem.
Yeah.
I rest my case, Your Honor. No further witnesses. Burn the uniforms. Burn them.
I mean, if they lose, let's
douse them in gasoline and never wear them again.
The good news
ever.
is they don't play
By the way,
AL East opponent.
You want to wear the City Connect hats with other uniforms? We can test it out. Let's find out, right? And by the way, if we find out it's the opposite, if things continue to go south with the hats and the regular uniforms, then go the opposite way. Try the uniforms with regular hats. Work it all out. Or just get rid of them altogether. But to continue to ignore this and pretend like this isn't a thing, like I'm the crazy one. I don't know, man. You might be. No, I'm not. And what was their road record on Fridays last year again? Which one of these numbers?
So they were 5-6. I just got to math it out. They were 15-10
They were 10-5 in road Friday night games.
Yeah, I'll double check.
Smells to me like it's time for them to go. All right. Better, I want you to recertify all of your data. And we're going to do a video about this later today. All right. Today's show brought to you by the print issue of Press Box, which is available at your neighborhood Royal Farms and the hundreds of locations around town where you find Press Box. You can read it all at PressBoxOnline.com. You see Grayson Rodriguez on the cover. Great story from our own Luke Jackson, diving into Grayson Rodriguez's path to becoming perhaps the Orioles' next homegrown ace of the staff. So go pick that up today for free, and you can read it all at PressBoxOnline.com. When we come back in, let's talk a little NFL draft. Let's see what our buddy Femi Ayanbadejo thinks the Ravens' big needs are going into draft week. We'll do that next. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Discover one of Baltimore's hidden gems at Guilford Hall Brewery. Enjoy dinner in our spacious brew pub, sip a signature cocktail in our outdoor dog-friendly beer garden, or take a tour of our brewery. Discover your new favorite local craft beer. From crisp lagers to hoppy ales, there's something for everyone to enjoy. Pair your brew with delicious appetizers and entrees. There are options for the whole family, but you have to try our fan-favorite giant pretzel. Guilford Hall Brewery, where every sip is a celebration. Visit us online at guilfordhall.com.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin, and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
Oh, honey, we better stop for gas soon. Let's pull into that Royal Farms.
Ugh, gas is so expensive.
Nope, it'll be cheaper than you think.
Why's that?
I signed up for Rofo Pay on the Royal Farms app. Now we save 15 cents per gallon at all Royal Farms.
Wow, that'll save us a ton of money. I love you more every day.
Well then, don't get a speeding ticket this trip, okay?
Sign up for Rofo Rewards and upgrade to Rofo Pay and save 15 cents a gallon on gas for a limited time. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Craving that classic New York deli experience? Look no further than the new Atman's Deli in Baltimore's Harbor Point. Corned beef piled high, hand-rolled bagels, and something different. A bar! Atman's has food and drink specials every day. Now open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Dine in, grab takeout, or hang out at the bar for the next O's game. Atman's Deli, an authentic taste of Baltimore tradition since 1915. Find us at Harbor Point or visit atmansdeli.com.
What company has the expertise to make your home healthier by purifying your air and killing all viruses, allergens, and bacteria? A.J. Michaels, Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis. AJMichaels.com.
Hungry? With 7 locations throughout Maryland, Glory Days Grill is always right around the corner. They have wings, burgers, salads, sandwiches, and drinks to satisfy everyone, as well as tons of televisions and sound delivered right to your phone. Glory Days is the best place to watch football or whatever your favorite sport is. While you're there, be sure to check out Goose Flight's Lager, named in honor of legendary Raven Tony Goose Siragusa. $2 of every can is donated to the Goose Flights Foundation. Glory Days Grill. Great food, good sports.
One of the things that's definitely wrong with this country is that this dude still has a job somehow, some way. Glenn Clark.
All right, back in here on GCR as we are continuing on a Tuesday edition of the program. As we talked about earlier, Orioles back in action tonight, looking for a 4th straight win. Grayson Rodriguez on the mound against Griffin Canning, another late-night game in this bizarre 3-game series that they're playing on the West Coast for reasons before they come right back home.
I think that's why I thought he was left-handed, because his name's Griffin, and I'm like, oh, I'm left-handed.
Right, so all Griffins are probably left-handed. That was your theory?
Yeah,
there?
and I just wanted him. I think I just wanted him to be left-handed.
Do you feel something special about like the connection between you and Griffin Canning?
Do
you feel that way about
at one
all
point,
Griffins?
I think when I thought he was left-handed, I did. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Now it's
But
over.
Now it's over.
Now it's over. Like
I
you
hope,
were gonna.
I hope we get 10 runs.
Were you gonna be conflicted tonight? Is that the way it was gonna be?
No,
like,
I wasn't gonna be conflicted, but I
Okay.
was like, he'll probably hang around. He'll probably let up a couple solo homers.
What's the meme of like the guy crying as he's shooting?
Yeah.
Is it Wesley Snipes? Right,
Yes.
like crying as he. It has been used very well over there. I think one of them was like me during the race war when it comes to Tony Hawk. I've always enjoyed that meme. That was going to be Griffin tonight with his fellow Griffin Canning. But apparently now that he's not left-handed, screw those right-handed Griffins. Worth nothing. They're awful people, and they don't deserve to live. Wait, what? That might be a stretch. But yes, Orioles, Angels tonight. We'll get into that and the rest of the schedule coming up in Totally Tubular in just a couple of minutes. But it is NFL Draft Week. Thursday night, round 1 gets underway with the Ravens holding the 30th pick. Let's get a couple of thoughts on what the Ravens still need to do to put together the rest of the roster from our friend, the Super Bowl champion, the man you hear on Project Game Day. He is our buddy Femi Ayanbadejo, and he's back with us now here on GCR. Femi, it's Glenn. It's great to catch up, brother. Thanks for taking a couple of minutes for us this morning.
Yeah, no problem. How's it going?
Everything is good, man. Are you with everybody else that, like, the story is ultimately just offensive line, or do you still think there are bigger or other significant issues that could be addressed early on in the draft?
Yeah, I mean, I think offensive line is always going to be the kind of foundation of every football team, right? The trenches, tackle, offensive line, and defensive line. So obviously there's a need at tackle. There's quite a few good tackles in this draft. But I think the decision will be made based on need with a combination of best available player. I think that's what's going to dictate what the Ravens decide to do, because I think Eric is pretty good, and the Ravens philosophically always want to draft the best talent, but obviously it's not in a silo, right? Need is always a part of that equation if we're looking at the XY axis in regard to, like, need versus best available player. I think every given year it could lean toward best available or positional need, right? So I think those are kind of like the XY axis kind of labels, and how Eric is going to decide is really going to come down to it in the moment. Probably, they're probably going to stay at 30. I mean, could they trade back? Maybe. I doubt it. Could they trade up? Possibly. That's more likely to me than trading back, because they really see a guy that they really, really like. But I think historically, how often do the Ravens trade up, right? You know what I mean?
Only a couple of times.
Picks
Yeah.
Right. Not as often. But, I think the beauty is Eric's dynamic about what he does. Ozzie was always dynamic. If they see something, I'm sure they've gone through a million scenarios, so all the different permutations and different approaches to it, we could just have a show on that probably.
Probably. So I guess we should phrase the question this way. If they don't take a tackle with the 30th or earlier pick in the draft, right, and if they went coming out of the draft, they're sitting there with, it's going to have to be Daniel Fa'alele. Would you be, or I guess a combination, Pat McCary could be in that conversation as well, but I would assume they want to keep rotating a little bit with Ronnie Stanley at left tackle. Would you be okay with that, comfortable with that, or would you have great concerns if they don't take a tackle early in this draft that they would feel confident starting on day one?
No, I wouldn't be concerned, because I'm sure that they know more than we know, and whatever decision they make was not done reflexively or, impulsively. There's quite a few receivers that I really like at 30. Ladd McConkey is one of them.
Yeah,
I
you've
really
talked
like
about
Ladd McConkey.
Yeah.
If he's there at 30 and they take him, I'll have absolutely no problem, because I understand how dynamic of a player he is. He's underrated. 6'1", runs 4.38, has amazing hands, would be a great compliment to Zay. I think that's you get those two guys, that's a 1 and a 2 right there. That Ladd could potentially be a 1. You know what I mean? So if they decide not to draft a tackle and they draft someone like that, and I know that there's been some rumors about Kool-Aid also being there, McKinstry also being there at 30. I've heard that at corner as well. I kind of like where we are at corner right now. I mean, obviously you can never have enough corners, but I think Brandon Stevens solidified himself as an upper echelon corner. He really had a coming out party last year. He was probably the most reliable guy over the course of the whole season, just showed up every game and did his job.
Yep.
So, I'm leaning toward wide receiver, because at the end of the day, we know that there's been some concern about Rashad. There's been some rumors about Rashad getting traded. Now, if they do trade him, and once again, I have no idea if this is true or false. This is the rumor mill, right? I'm just throwing all the rumors out there.
Yep.
If they trade Rashad and they get maybe they package Rashad with a draft pick and they get back into the second round. Could they get another receiver in the second round and draft their offensive tackle in the first round? Absolutely. Could they flip that around and do the exact same thing, draft the receiver first, get the tackle later? They could do that as well. So there's just so many different things going on, and you know how the rumor mill is around this time. But my top two positions are wide receiver and offensive line in no particular order.
Where are you with Rashad Bateman, Femi? Because Reed and I talk about this all the time. I'm still a believer in Rashad Bateman, and it doesn't seem like the talent is the problem. It does. For whatever reason, it doesn't seem like the connection is there between he and Lamar, but, he gets open. And, yeah, he had a couple of drops, but, in the Pittsburgh game, everybody had drops, right? Everyone on the team dropped the ball in that game. I am not as down on Rashad Bateman as a lot of other people seem to be.
Yeah, I'm not down on Rashad at all. I don't think he does himself very many favors from the outside looking in. But once again, I'm not there. It's very dangerous to make assumptions based on what you think about a player. He seems like a sensitive, thoughtful guy. He really does. I bet you I would like Rashad as a human being. I've never met him. I've never spoken to him. But I think there's a level of professionalism and toughness and thick skin that you have to have as a wide receiver in the NFL. And I'm not saying he doesn't have it. I don't know if he does or if he doesn't. I'm not close enough. But when I've seen him get tested, and he has been tested with injuries and with pundits making, assumptions and talking about him, and former players telling him how to act and how to behave. The tweet, from, was it a year ago or was it
he was
2 years ago? I don't even remember.
Fighting with Eric.
Yeah. He misinterpreted what Eric said, something kind of off the cuff, and then he, goes and that's emotional. That's impulsive. You've got to be smarter than that, because once you take the toothpaste out of the tube, there's no putting it back. So these are all different things that people are going to use. And, we live in a negative news cycle. So people are going to use everything you say and do against you. I'm still big on Rashad. I don't think Rashad has touched the ceiling. I don't think he's anywhere close. And let's not forget, in that AFC Championship game, if Lamar doesn't get strip sacked, Rashad's open for a 70-yard touchdown in that game.
No doubt.
My guess is Lamar throws that ball. My guess is Rashad catches that ball, and we're having a whole different conversation right now. But he does get open. This is a fact. This is what the data tells us. We see the PFF data. He's one of the most the most talented receivers in the league when it comes to getting open. But for whatever reason, the connection hasn't been there. And I don't think it's one thing. Lamar's a 2-time MVP, right? So I'm not ready to point fingers at anybody. I wanted to see J.K. come back. It broke my heart when J.K. didn't come back. I really think he's gonna ball out. The kid's been playing football his whole life. He had a bad stretch run here with us in regard to injuries, but I really didn't want to give up on him. I don't want to give up on Rashad either. I just don't think guys like J.K. and Rashad, from a talent perspective, they don't just grow on trees. And I feel like we're in this time period where everybody wants that quick dopamine hit on everything right away, and that's just not reality. These things take time, and you're taking it from a guy who played 11 years, who really, I got cut. I got brought back on the practice squad. I got cut again. I got brought back again. I got sent to NFL Europe. I made the roster. I got cut again. I come back. I become a starter. I get cut again. I become a starter. Like, dude, I've been through those. I've been through the traumatic mill of testing, and I know what it's like. And it's made me who I am, and I wouldn't change a damn thing. And I hope Rashad, although he was a first-round draft pick and I was an undrafted free agent, I hope he can take the lessons from the trauma and the doubters that come with that. When I say trauma, I mean the little T trauma, like just the doubting, the negative talk, and that weighs on you as a former player. Trust me, it does. I've been there. I've been at times where I'm the only person who believed in myself in probably a whole building at a certain point in my life, many times, from high school through the league. We've all been there. And I think that's when you really got to buckle down. And he should be here. He should be here at the team workouts. He should be here with his teammates. And him not being here, once again, it doesn't help him. He hasn't earned the right to not be here yet. I don't think I took a break from organized team workouts or lifting with the team until probably like my 6th or 7th year in the NFL. Like, I was at every organized team activity, every training day, every conditioning thing that we did in April, even before that. You know what I mean? So, like I said, I'm a believer in Rashad. I'm still big on him. But yeah, can I make some critiques as a big bro would, or somebody who's a former player that's been through it? I think I could.
I appreciate the thought process. I'm always uber defensive of players. Like, it's just sort of the nature of me. And I'm the guy that says, hey, I get it. If it's not mandatory, it's not mandatory. But I understand your point, right? Like, you still have a lot to prove. You still, we think you're talented, but you still have a lot to prove, whether it's ultimately in Baltimore or somewhere else. And it sure as hell couldn't hurt for you to go the extra step in order to try to get there. Femi Ayanbadejo is with us here on GCR. Femi, let me go, because you brought up cornerback, and I agree there. I know that Kyle Van Noy coming back is a good thing, and I still have hope for David Ojabo and what he might ultimately be. And I do think that if you look past just the sack total, Odafe Owe probably had a better season than a lot of people want to give him credit for. But yet I still come away saying I think there is still a need, and obviously Madubuike is going to be a big part of it, but for an impact rusher, someone that you can count on to just get after quarterbacks with Jadeveon Clowney being gone. And I get that 30 is a tough spot for it. It just doesn't look like a Chop Robinson's going to get there. And the next group of guys, Baltimore's own Chris Braswell, who I like but isn't talked about that way. I just still feel like early in this draft, they'd be well served if maybe it's a strength in numbers thing. Continue trying to draft whoever that guy might be moving forward.
Yeah, I'm with you. I do think that you need a dog on the edge that can just get it done on his own, right? Because as good as, and we're so spoiled, right? We have all the records the Ravens broke last year. Least points allowed, was it turnovers and sacks, right?
Yep.
The best ever technically, right? And I've gone on record, and I've said this numerous times. The 2023 Ravens are the best Ravens team in history. Now, they're not the best performing Ravens team in history because they didn't win a Super Bowl. But on paper, what they did to the league last year, they wrecked the NFL last year.
Sure.
And I think they can do it again. And I think that, and I don't care if they finish 14-3 or 13-4 or whatever. That doesn't matter. We saw the team I was on. We went 12-4. We won a Super Bowl. I think that the 2012 team, 2011 team, 2012 team, they went 10-6, didn't they?
Yeah, they were.
I think they went 10-6.
They were
right?
mid. Yes.
Yeah, I think they lost 4 games in a row.
Down the stretch, they were brutal. 100%.
Yeah,
they were.
So my point is that like record schmeckers, like get in the playoffs and then go on a run. But obviously, we know that past performance can be indicative of future performance, but doesn't guarantee it. We know that. But to make a long story short, is that I do feel like, to bring this back to your point about the edge, I do think that can be where hay is made if you can find the right guy. But I'm thinking not draft. Like when I look at the draft, I don't think the edge position is as deep as the other positions.
It's not.
The Ravens have a knack for finding a veteran that is proven, that it's still out there floating around. I think they go that route for the edge. They find a guy, and I have no idea who that guy is. It could be a guy that gets cut. It could be a guy that we're just not even thinking of right now that has an established career. Because pass rushing, in my opinion, there's a lot of tricks in that bag, and very, very few. Let me not say no. Very, very, very few rookies are T.J. Watt or his brother or Suggs. Like they don't just come off the street and hop in the NFL and get double-digit sacks. That doesn't really happen that much, and that's why a guy like Kyle Van Noy and there's other veteran guys that are seasoned, that know the tricks of the trade, that have multiple tools in their bag. They may not be at their peak from an athletic perspective, but they're at their peak from a knowledge perspective. You know what I mean? And that's what allows them to be productive at a later stage in their career.
A lot of people have brought up the idea of a reunion with Yannick Ngakoue, who it didn't work, obviously, when he was here, but it felt like it was a square peg round hole thing where, like, the Ravens still at that point were not letting guys just be on the field to rush the passer. Like, they didn't do that. They said, you've got to be a complete linebacker. That's not what Yannick Ngakoue is. If in this era, if Zach Orr says, actually, I'm totally comfortable using a guy that way, I'm not even as bad as it was after the initial trade, I wouldn't be terribly opposed to a reunion with Yannick Ngakoue to see if you couldn't get something out of that.
Yeah, I think of his skill set, and I think of his defense now. I don't know where he fits in, but, like you mentioned, you have David Ajabo, right? We need to see some dividends from him. I think he can do it, right? We have Odafe Owe still. We have Kyle Van Noy. I don't know. I'm still a believer. I mean, that's shocking, right? I'm a believer in what the Ravens do, right? That's weird. I know
you've
it
never,
sounds weird.
You've never been that guy at all. You've always been.
I've never been that guy. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So anyway, but yeah, my point, I don't know. Hey, whatever decision they make, I got to look at the all the pieces on the board at the same time. I'm not against it either. I'm not as hyped on that decision possibly because maybe I've seen that movie already.
No, I get it. It's part of the.
But I'm not against it. I don't know. I haven't thought about that. I haven't thought about him coming back. But I think there's other guys that are a little younger and a little more positioned from a length, height, weight perspective, I feel like. But hey, once again, I'm all about veterans getting chances. You know that.
I understand. I completely understand. All right, last one for you, and I always appreciate your time, brother. When you brought up the idea of trading back, and I am almost always like allergic to that conversation, right? Like it never feels to me like the difference in winning a Super Bowl is, do you have 3 more 4th round picks? And that's not to take anything away from 4th round picks, right? Like I understand. But I don't know, uniquely this year, I see a core of stars. The Kyle Hamiltons, obviously Lamar, right? Derrick Henry now, and Mark Andrews, and Zay Flowers, and Matabika, and Roquan. And it does, in a way, because of all of that they lost, it does a little bit feel to me like maybe depth is the difference at the moment. And I'm not saying still that I want them to trade for a bunch. If there's a player that they love, go get that player. But I don't know that I would be as down about trading back as I would be in other years, because it does feel like they could use a little more depth on the O-line, a little more depth at corner, a little more depth at edge rush, as you pointed out, a little more depth at wide receiver. It feels like maybe they could use 1 more 2nd or 3rd round picks, like 4 top 3 round picks uniquely this year in comparison to it having to be whatever the guy is at 30. Am I crazy for feeling that way?
No, you're not, because I think wide receiver and tackle are deep, and if they can get both, and that's the way they do it, I'm all for it too. But I'll tell you right now, Ladd McConkey is my guy.
I know you've loved him. You've loved him.
I've been saying it for a while. Yeah, I have been saying it for a while. So we'll see what happens, man. So.
Well, I love it. All right, I'll be in touch with you, my friend. What can I plug for you? Anything?
I think it could be a little thing between us. But, yeah, we'll talk about it off air, and then let's see if we can plug it in the future discussion.
I love it, man. Appreciate you as always. Talk soon, all right?
All right, bud. Bye.
It's my guy, Femi Ayanbadejo, with us here on GCR, the Super Bowl champ. Yeah, he has been high on Ladd McConkey for a long time. And, again, you add in, of course, on top of everything else, the connection with Todd Monken, and it makes complete sense. I have talked myself out of the idea that the Ravens would go back to the well with wide receiver in round 1. Although I do love A.D. Mitchell. And if they've got something cooking. And, again, that is predicated on the idea that they're not trading Rashad Bateman. If they are, and I think this has been completely Internet-driven. I don't think it's been driven by any report, any leak, anything. It feels like this Rashad Bateman conversation has been utterly and completely Twitter-driven by Rashad Bateman, I guess maybe took some pictures down or something like that. I don't even know if that's
just
true.
The fact that they did the same thing 2 years ago,
with Hollywood Brown, right?
Like
it is
same timeline.
It has felt like the internet has decided that Rashad Bateman is going to be traded, and not like Adam Schefter saying, "Hey, I'm hearing some rumors that perhaps the Ravens could be looking." But I like A.D. Mitchell quite a bit, and yes, to Femi's point, if you could package Rashad Bateman, who you got to make this decision about anyway, and you might not be comfortable making that decision, and a later pick to get back in to the second round and add an additional pick after you already took a wide receiver, or it's to take, Xavier Legette. Is it Leggett or Legette? God,
I thought I heard Leggett. But
Leggett, maybe it's Leggett. I apologize. If that's the move,
sounds right.
Well, I don't know. I might have just made that up in my head. Because immediately after I said it, I was like, is that right? Or is it Leggett? Leggett. Oh, God. I've now come up with 3 different names.
Leggett.
We'll Damn it.
We'll know come Thursday. Well, it's Friday,
maybe,
whatever.
Yeah. But if the move is we're going to take our tackle in round 1, and then in round 2, we do want to find a corner, but also we would like to have one more pick, and they swap out Rashad Bateman for and another pick, let's say Rashad Bateman and a 4th for getting back into the second round. I don't know who's doing that. Like, I don't know who's more committed today to pick up Rashad Bateman's 5th-year option and would be willing to give up their second-round pick in order to do it. I don't know who that team is, but if that was on the table, sure. I just don't. The smell test for me is, why would another team be willing to pay that type of price? Like, to me, the smell test would be another team would say, well, we'll give you a 4th-round pick.
So it doesn't seem like the market for Rashad Bateman is as big as Hollywood's was. I mean, they got a 1 deck for.
I can't. Well, no, I definitely don't think they can do that. Right. I guess the question would be why, and I think the answer is obvious. Like, Hollywood was productive. Like, he was really productive.
Yeah.
Like, we all see the talent with Rashad Bateman, but the production has not matched it. So Hollywood, maybe you could say he was imperfect, but he was still wildly productive. I mean, there's no debating that. Again, I think all of us are feeling a little bit nervous about what he might look like in Kansas City. I am terrified that that's going to end up looking like the sneaky best move of the offseason.
The Ravens go to Kansas City this year? Is that?
Yes, right? Yeah, I think it's in Kansas City.
Everyone's pointing at that as one of the
potential, opening games of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly would be in the conversation. Although there was something else that somebody pointed out to me that might also make sense.
For the Chiefs, I guess.
Yeah, this is a conversation that I remember having the week after the Super Bowl, and then just like completely.
Yeah, we were like, all right, well,
we'll deal with that.
Baseball.
That's exactly the way it's been around here. That's why I don't know how to pronounce the
Xavier
if the
Xavier L.
If
XL.
the Orioles,
we'll XL.
If these are the 2021 Orioles, I would know how to pronounce all these guys' names. But I am paying attention to the Orioles.
I would have my own top 150.
That's what I'm invested in. All right, the other home games. The home games for the Chiefs this year are the Broncos, Chargers, Raiders, Ravens, Bengals, Texans. So the Texans would be a sneaky.
Also, the Chiefs are involved, so it's like,
Yeah,
they can't go.
well, they did
too
that with the
wrong.
Lions last year, right? Where everybody was like, "Really? That's the move?" And yes, we all thought the Lions were going to be better, but still, we just thought there were better options on the schedule. But in their world, they might say, "Hey, all of these games are going to be big games, no matter when we play them. The first game of the season is going to be a big game, no matter who the opponent is." So in their mind, they might say, "We could make it. We could make it Tampa and have
make it
a
LA because you get the LA market and.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to count on that, too, no matter what. I don't know. I could see Houston just because they're like the sexy team that was already really good and has done a lot this offseason. I could see them looking at that one and saying, hey, we would like to make C.J. Stroud more of a household name. And by putting him in the opener of the season, like we know Lamar Jackson's a household name. We know that whenever we put him on television, we're going to get Boku ratings. Let's put C.J. Stroud on in week 1 in that first game, get giant ratings, and if it's a great game, then more people will be inclined to watch C.J. Stroud throughout the course of the season. I don't know. For some reason, I'm talking myself into that being the answer. Bengals obviously would be good, too. Joe Burrow coming back. I don't know. I'm convincing myself that, like, the Texans check that they just know whenever we play Ravens-Chiefs, it's going to be huge. So we don't have to put it on the opener. We could just save it for
4 o'clock or
or a
Thursday,
a Sunday night or a whatever. Like we don't, whenever it is. But that first game, let's maybe try to do more with that. Let's try to make another star out of that. In the hindsight, it kind of felt like that's while it wasn't about a player with the Lions, it was we were trying to make a storyline by putting them in that game. We think the Lions are a team on the come. This will give it the opportunity to announce it to a broader audience that doesn't pay as much attention to football. And now they'll come out of week 1 saying, wow, the Lions are a thing. We want to pay attention to them during the course of the year. And I think the Texans.
Yeah. Who are the NFC teams that they have?
Their NFC teams are the Saints, the Buccaneers.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well,
it's not a lot going on there. Not a lot happening. All right, let's get a tidbit. Tidbit is brought to you today by Atman's Deli in Harbor Point. Now open. Everything you love about the original Atman's. Plus, they have a full bar. The corned beef piled high, all the great deli sandwiches, as well as, of course, the soups, the desserts, all of it at your neighborhood, your new neighborhood, Atman's Deli in Harbor Point with a bar. AtmansDeli.com is the website. Find out their daily specials. There's always something going on. The hot dog with the fried bologna. They got everything, and it's wonderful. AtmansDeli.com. What you got?
Last night for the Knicks, of course, Dante DiVincenzo hit the big shot, but Josh Hart had a big game as well. In fact, he became only the fourth player in NBA history in a playoff game to have 20 points, 15 rebounds, make 4 threes, and have 4 stocks, which is steals and blocks combined. So he had 4 steals and blocks combined. There were only 3 other players that have done this in a playoff game that are modern.
Okay.
3-point era, yeah. So
LeBron
is one of them.
Give me the numbers one more time.
20 points, 15 rebounds, 4 made threes.
4 made threes.
And 4 stocks.
And 4
stocks. Steals and blocks.
I don't think that Jokic made 4 threes. Jokic.
Not Jokic. But you're thinking, right height.
Mm-hmm. Right height. Other big men that might have knocked down that many threes. Modern big men that knocked down that many threes.
1 still active.
1 is still active.
1 no longer active.
1. Dirk?
Dirk Nowitzki. LeBron, Dirk, and...
The third one is still active. It's probably not Draymond.
You should know.
Active.
Because he's your favorite player.
He's my favorite player? He's my favorite player. Durant?
Yeah, Kevin Durant.
You don't think of Durant getting steals and blocks, dog. I mean, I get it. He can do it, but you just don't associate
Kevin Durant,
him.
LeBron, Dirk Nowitzki, and Josh Hart of the New York Knicks.
It's like everybody always talks about. The Big Four, they call them.
Jared Jones.
The Mount Rushmore of modern basketball.
Jared Jones struck out 7 batters again, so he did join the list of players to
okay.
strike out 7 in their first 5 games.
How about
We did that list last week, but it was Tanaka, Strasburg, and Jose De Leon. This one is, it's technically a stat. It's from Sarah Langs and Colt Jacobson. Albert Suarez is now the first pitcher to have back-to-back.
I think I saw Sarah. Yeah.
Back-to-back outings of 5 innings and no runs in each of his. So back-to-back outings, first 2 appearances after not appearing in an MLB game for at least 5 years.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think that most guys would disappear from baseball for 7 years and then just come back and be great. Why were they gone? I don't get it.
And I like this one for another Jared Jones one. 98 swings and misses, which is tied for the 8th most by a pitcher in his first 5 starts of a season. Doesn't have to just be a rookie or his first 5 career starts. First 5 to start the season. This is only in the pitch tracking era, so since 2008. But there are 8 guys that have had more swings and misses to start the season than Jared Jones since 2008.
Since 2008.
Yes.
Let's go Scherzer.
Scherzer is one of them. Had 100 swings and misses to start 2018.
Kershaw.
Kershaw is not on the list. Yeah, not on the list.
Garrett Cole.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Verlander.
Wow. No Verlander.
Felix Hernandez.
No King Felix.
CC Sabathia. David Price. Chris Sale.
Chris Sale is on the list. 2017.
Adam Wainwright.
No, not Adam Wainwright.
Aaron Nola.
Not Aaron Nola. Think
Jacob deGrom.
Yes, Jacob deGrom. The most through their first 5 starts of the season. 118 swings and misses in 2021.
Justin Verlander.
No, not Verlander.
How many am I missing?
You did guess him.
Did I?
Okay, so you're not missing as many because one guy did it twice. You're missing 1,
Corey
2,
Kluber.
3,
Hey.
4. You have 4 more.
I have 4 more.
And they all did it in the past 3 seasons.
Oh, damn it. Okay. And it's not Garrett Cole, which seems really surprising because he gets a lot of strikeouts. Corbin Burns.
No, not Corbin Burns. His strikeout numbers are down since game 1.
Yeah, we got to talk about that at some point. No,
Right.
not yet. Dylan Cease.
No, not Dylan Cease.
Zach Wheeler.
Let's see.
I'm just going to name
Wheeler.
pitchers, dog.
3, so
Kevin
two
Gausman.
2 of them. Yes, Kevin Gausman.
Oh,
yeah, well done. 2022. 2 of them
Fried.
started really
Strider.
strong this season. Strider, yes.
Okay.
He's one of the ones that went down injured already this season.
Oh.
Yeah.
Somebody else? Bieber?
Shane Bieber. On this list twice. Had over 100 twice to start the season.
I'm still
and then
missing
one
somebody?
more. Yes.
Luis Castillo.
No. He got injured
Gilbert
last year.
Now you're asking me to remember things that happened last year, dog. I'm not going to.
No,
that actually.
He is from Maryland.
He's from. Shane McClanahan.
Shane McClanahan. But yeah, good list for Jared Jones. It sounds like he's got elbow surgery in the future.
Oh God.
So
that's rough.
Yeah.
All right, very good. All right, here's what's coming up. Totally Tubular is brought to you today by your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Proud sponsors of County Sports Zone. CountySports.Zone is the website in order for you to find out more. Here's what's coming up Totally Tubular-wise this evening. As we mentioned, Grayson Rodriguez, Griffin Canning, 9:38 on Masson 2. Also available if you happen to live in the New York or San Francisco market. So good news, Ben, in San Francisco. The game is on MLB Network for you tonight because MLB Network and the rest of the country has Mets Giants at 10:30. And everybody, you know what? Everybody can watch the game tonight on ESPN Plus if you don't live in this market. In this market, you can't watch it on ESPN Plus, which is a shame because ESPN Plus works on my television, unlike the Masson app. Son of a bitch. Anyway, there's lots of ways to watch the Orioles and Angels tonight. ESPN Plus for Maryland Madison baseball at 6 o'clock. Masson has Dodgers Nationals at 6:45. I mentioned Mets Giants 10:30 on MLB Network, also available for free on MLB TV. TBS Astros Cubs at 7:40. The Washington Capitals try to even up their series with the Rangers tonight at 7 o'clock. Game 2 on ESPN, also on Monumental Network locally. Avalanche Jets Game 2, 9:30 on ESPN. ESPN 2 for Lightning Panthers Game 2 at 7:30. Predators Canucks Game 2 at 10. Basketball tonight, TNT and True TV for Suns Timberwolves Game 2 at 7:30. Mavericks Clippers game 2 at 10.
They have Kevin Durant. They might win.
They do. NBA TV for game 2 between the Pacers and the Bucks. Griffin feverishly hoping that the Pacers show signs of life tonight at 8:30.
I don't know.
USA for Arsenal Chelsea at 3 o'clock and WWE NXT at 8. Non-sports highlights?
Not a lot, but the big highlight is Shogun, the series finale, out today on at 10 o'clock at 10 p.m. on FX. But I believe it came out actually at 3 a.m. on Hulu as well.
Oh,
so
really?
if you want to watch it right now, you can go watch the series finale of Shogun.
Okay.
Yeah. That is it. Gabriel Iglesias will be on Jimmy Kimmel because he's got a special. That is the only
Sure he does.
Semi-highlight.
What is his fluffy? Is that his?
Don't worry, be fluffy.
Sure. Seems like a nice guy, just not really for me. All right, very good. Thanks.
Vanderpump Rules on Bravo.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks today to Femi. Thanks also to Patrick Stevens and to Wes Brown. We'll get it up in the greatest hits section of the.
Oh my God, it's so good.
Tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. Tomorrow is Drew.
Yeah, Drew will be here.
Jameer Young will check in with us as he had a big weekend down at the Portsmouth event as he tries to get his name into the NBA draft conversation.
Portsmouth or Portsmouth?
I thought it was I don't know.
Portsmouth.
I don't know.
Well,
I got to be honest with you. He might not know either. You can check in on that. Anything else?
Stuff and things.
Oh, God. Oh, boy.
Have baseball to talk about.
Yeah, but it would be nice to talk about baseball with someone.
I agree.
Stuff and things. Thanks everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including Atman's Deli, Live Casino and Hotel, AJ Michaels, Guilford Hall Brewery, Royal Farms, Ed Block Courage Awards, HelpMyGamblingProblem.org, Costa Sin, MSAA, Hartford Community College, Glory Days Grill, the Baltimore Orioles, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. Reed and I are with you 7 to 9 tonight on 105.7 The Fan, so come hang out with us over there. Have a great Tuesday evening. Go Birds. Go Maryland baseball. Duke sucks.